I hope that you enjoyed this one. Um, I would like us to share for a little bit, on mute and share, or also it would be nice if you could have your camera on. All right, I'll share the link here in a little bit, Sister Utamu. All right. So tell me, share with me, what's the marriage tradition in your country or culture or in another culture that you think is unique, something unique that couples do on their wedding day or for their marriage or something like that. Um, what's a marriage tradition you think it's unique? It could be unique to your culture or you see it in some other culture and you like it. You think it's unique. Anyone wants to share?
I see African Americans jump the broom.
Yes.
Tony, I was just about to say
Sounds
that.
good. Yeah.
Yes. That's an interesting one. I'm not sure. I'm not sure quite why it's done though. I've never looked it up. It's probably something that I should look up. Um, why they jump over this broom? Oh my gosh, it kind of look fairy tale-ish, but I don't know. All right, any other ones?
I've
Some
also
cultures,
noticed.
I think it's, oh, sorry.
Go
Huh?
ahead, baby.
Hi. Hi, yeah. Some cultures, I think it's maybe sometimes the Asian, sometimes the Africans pin money to the bride. That looks quite good.
Yes, yes. I like that one too. They throw the money all over. Yes, they some cultures pin it for true, and some cultures throw the money all over the bride and groom. I think that's something that yes, my sister they did that at her wedding.
I
Any
also like the combination of the different color sands together in a glass container where they combine the sand, the different color
yes,
sand to
yes.
symbolize unity.
Yes, that's true. The sand ceremony is a beautiful one, and a lot of couples do that one for true. The
Also do
sand ceremony.
the candle ceremony too, where they
Yeah.
light one candle from symbolizing the two persons coming together. But
Yes.
in my culture,
Mm-hmm. Is that the Guyanese culture you're talking about, Sister Nan?
yes, we have, although we're located in South America,
Mm-hmm.
we have a lot of traditions
Mm-hmm.
that is purely African.
Right. Okay. That's true. I do notice that you do embrace the African culture a lot. I notice like when Guyanese persons are getting married, you do wear a lot of the African attire. Like the mother of the bride and so forth will be dressed in African attire. It's a good one. All right, go ahead, Dr. Tony.
I didn't get to say what I was
You
saying.
have more to say. Sorry, Sister
No,
Nancy.
you took it over and you said what they do.
Oh.
Huh?
Oh my goodness. I thought that was your one sentence. I was
No,
adding
no,
to it.
no, no. I didn't get to say. I said we
Okay,
were
go ahead.
we're done.
Go ahead.
It's inspired by our African traditions. Um,
Yes.
I visited. I heard about it when I was living there, and then I moved away as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
I went back for a wedding in
Yes.
1996, and I experienced it. They have a what they call a kwekwe the night
Okay.
before, followed by the wedding the next day, and the ceremony, the celebration at night, the kwekwe. Anybody heard of kwekwe before?
No, this is the
Okay.
first time I'm hearing kwekwe.
And they do hosted it here. It's entirely African. From the
Mm-hmm.
ancestors.
Okay.
It's where somebody from St. Vincent
Mm-hmm.
knows about kwekwe. So the kwekwe is you have the groom's family. They walk from their house, the groom's house, to the bride's house, and they walk as a group,
Yeah.
and they come with coconut branches, and they chanting and they going down the street, in the villages, and they come in, and the bride is hidden somewhere at her parents' house, and they all come in to meet the family the day before
Okay.
the wedding, and it's a big ceremony, and I want to go into it, but it's about cultural and advice and all kinds of things. Elderly, they have chants that goes with it, and when you hear the
Interesting.
drums, when you hear the comfort drums, it's purely African inspired, and so I can't go into it too far, but look it up online, quick,
All
quick.
right. All right.
And then
That's
they do the pinning of the money on the bride.
yes.
Everybody comes with lots of money that I experienced when I went to every wedding back home. Pinning of the money, on the bride's gown.
Right. Okay, good one. Thank you for sharing those, Sister Nancy. Quite interesting. All right, go ahead, Dr. Tony.
Okay, so jumping the broom, it
Mm-hmm.
seems to represent sweeping away past hardships and
Okay.
cleansing the space for a new life and uniting two families, as well as if a institution would not formally marry them, like in slavery,
Mm-hmm.
days, people couldn't legally marry. So
Right.
jumping the broom became a powerful, recognized way to form a family and declare a lifelong bond within their community. And it seems like they are not the only ones who did it,
Yeah.
because in the 18th century, Wales and other parts of Britain, Rome and other marginalized groups used broom jumping as an informal marriage ceremony when churches wouldn't recognize their unions. So it
Oh,
seemed to be coming from far.
yeah. I see that. That's interesting to learn. All right, everyone. Thank you so very much for sharing. Those were interesting, very interesting. All right. So for those of us who have never heard about the kwekwe, go and look it up. And it's kind of interesting to know what that broom jumping is about now. Oh gosh, it's probably
And
something that us as Christians don't want to do. Seeing where it's coming from.
there's also the 2 weeks from the marriage after the
Mhm.
after bride and groom returns from their
Mhm.
honeymoon. There's a ceremony. It's called Second Sunday.
Okay.
All the families, they get together, all both sides. It's always a push for the family to get to know each other,
Okay.
and that's what it is. So when you marry someone in my culture, you marry the family.
Wonderful. All right. All right. Thank you. All right. That's good to know that the marriage tradition in our different countries or our cultures, they're diverse as the cultures themselves. And it's interesting. All right. So let's get into this prenup business here, that we intend to look at tonight. Before you say I do, prenup or trust. All right, so what is a prenuptial agreement? So as we know, the prenup or the prenuptial agreement is a contract signed before marriage about how assets, debts, and rights are treated if the marriage ends. In some places, it's common, in others, it's rare. And so today we will be looking at what prenups are, how cultures around the world approach them, Christian viewpoints, including whether this prenup is biblical or not, what the Bible and Christian writers say about marriage, provision, trust, and covenant. All right, let's look at a video that tells us that speaks, so it gives a brief overview of what prenuptial agreements are. All right, let's take a look.
My name is Katie Michelson, and I'm a partner at the law firm Bierman LLP. I practice 100% of domestic relations and matrimonial law, and today the topic will be on prenuptial agreements. There's a big misconception that prenuptial agreements are only for the very wealthy. And quite the contrary, many of my clients come to me seeking prenuptial agreements to help them sort through and pretty much pre-plan what's going to happen in the event of a divorce or an untimely death. I often get questions by people asking if they have to have significant assets or income to enter into a premarital agreement, and the answer is a resounding no. Prenuptial agreements are for individuals who want to have more control on how their assets and income are ultimately allocated in the event of a divorce or even death. Prenuptial agreements can be as complicated or as simple as individuals like to see. I've done prenuptial agreements that are 30 or so many pages, and I've done prenuptial agreements that are much shorter. It really is depending upon what the person wants to accomplish with a prenuptial agreement, and that really gives me the direction I need in how I want to advise them on what should be included. It's really interesting, the full gamut of the ages and walks of life that people come to me seeking a prenuptial agreement. I will often get individuals who are more established in their lives, who have assets that they want to protect. Given that in today's day and age, people are generally marrying later in life, many individuals have assets and income that they want to protect, and they certainly don't want to leave it to the court system as to what happens in the event of a divorce. So a prenuptial agreement is great for individuals who have taken time to build their estates and to build themselves as professionals. I also have a fair number of individuals who own their own businesses. And for them, this is somewhat of a planning on how to preserve their business assets as well. And then I also have individuals who have been married before, and they see what the result is of going through a divorce. They want to preserve their assets. They don't want to have a court making decisions because perhaps they've had a negative experience in the past. So it's important for them to be in control of the situation. I treat premarital agreements like marital settlement agreements. A prenuptial agreement should never be done in a rushed manner, just as a marital settlement agreement, which is the financial agreement one enters as part of their divorce, should never be done overnight. The biggest difficulty people have is understanding that a prenuptial agreement doesn't have to be just a two-page document. It's to include income, assets, recognition of premarital assets, what to do in the event of a divorce as it relates to spousal support. All of these aspects are incorporated into a marital settlement agreement. So I think it's really important for people to understand that as much time as it goes into drafting a marital settlement agreement in the divorce process, the same amount of time and attention needs to be done when drafting a premarital agreement. The Uniform Premarital Agreement Act was adopted by Illinois and governs what needs to be in a premarital agreement. Provided that terms are included that comport with the Uniform Premarital Agreement Act, the prenuptial agreement will remain valid. There are ways that terms of the prenuptial agreement can be challenged, and for more information, you should look at the Uniform Premarital Agreement Act to determine how that can happen. One piece of advice I have for family law attorneys who draft premarital agreements is to know what you know and know what you don't know. There's no harm and actually a benefit to clients to consult with estate planning attorneys and attorneys in other areas of law that the terms of a prenuptial agreement can apply to. This helps our clients tremendously. It has another set of eyes looking over the agreement terms and makes sure that the agreement remains valid. To learn more about the benefits of joining our ISBA Family Law section, please visit the ISBA website. Thanks so much for joining us.
All righty, so from listening to this video, what new thing did you learn about prenuptial agreements? Was there anything new that you You didn't know. Or did that? Did the video kind of push you into boredom or what? One thing that came out at me from watching it, I thought these were for significant assets. I thought it was people who had significant assets who would more so want to sign a prenuptial agreement. But she stated that even persons without significant assets oh yes, that's another thing too. Yes, they can be made for untimely death. I saw that coming out. Go ahead, Dr. Tony.
Yeah, I mean, the video didn't tell me anything new because
Yes,
I had researched it before.
yes,
But the reason why I like prenuptial agreement is that, for example, if you're going to get married,
yes,
say in my case, I've been married before and I have a child.
yes.
Anything I have now, I believe belongs to my child. So doing a prenuptial agreement will avoid any problems with my husband and my child. So he know that anything that I have before I come in the marriage, he does not touch that. Anything we do together in the marriage and accomplish, then, like my child doesn't have any claim to that. It is not just, I mean, like there was a point in time when we used to think that, oh, if you do a prenup, you're really preparing for divorce, but it is not. For example, I have student loans. I have no intention of, if I get married again, for my husband to be burdened with my student loans. A prenup takes care of that, right?
That's
It's like anything that you have that you would
true.
prefer not to have to like to share. Say, for example, you want to make something like something is for your mother or your siblings. A prenup will take care of that. So it's like you totally avoid problems by creating a prenup. And if your husband were to die or, like it takes care of all of those things. So I think it's very useful. It's not like what we think that, oh, if you do a prenup, you're preparing for divorce. Nothing like that.
Awesome, awesome. All right, thank you for sharing that, Dr. Tony. So there are different types of prenuptial agreements across the world, as you would have explained. Here, we see the traditional legal prenups common in the US, UK, and other countries, and it's a written contract about assets and rights. If marriage ends, then I see they're speaking about Jewish prenuptial agreement. It's used to prevent get refusal and help protect spouses in a religious marriage context. And then variation in civil law globally. Some enforce full prenups, others consider them as guidelines. Before we go into talking some more about some of what Dr. Tony would have just mentioned, I would like us to share, unmute and share, how couples prepare legally or financially before marriage, or how you think they should prepare from your own research to how do you think that people should prepare. And for those who were married already, if you want to share how you prepared with your past spouse. And if we have any married people on the line, how did you prepare legally and financially before marriage? How do you think they should prepare for that? What preparation should take place? What are your thoughts?
Probably first thing I think
Mm-hmm.
is to have a discussion,
Yes.
to communicate,
Yes.
so that persons are on the same page,
Yes.
as to who will be responsible for what. How
Right.
do you take care of the new home?
Right.
You understand? Who pays the bills? Do we have joint accounts? Do we have separate accounts? Budgets, do we sit down and make the budget, or do we just do our things on our own? You're responsible for that. I'm responsible for that. So I think it's a matter of communication, clear communication, and coming to an agreement, and thereafter, you execute it.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Elder Jonakim. Those are some good points. Go ahead, Sister Opal.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Sister Katie. Good night, everyone.
Good
All
night.
right. So I believe a prenup should be a transparent preparing for a prenup, it should be you should have a transparent discussion where assets are disclosed, debts are disclosed. Prenups are usually done equitably. So it's not for power or control or to exert dominance over one person or the other.
Right.
It should be very transparent as to how you both would want your assets, but not just your asset, but also debts, businesses that you might own, inheritance, family businesses. How would you want that to be dealt with in the event of not only divorce, but also death? There are, excuse me, there are inheritances that some people may want to keep in the family, like a family legacy. And it's just to have an honest discussion about what you basically would want in your particular marriage.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Sister Opal, along with what you and Elder Jonakim said here. It's go ahead, Dr. Tony. Go ahead.
Okay, so I believe that two people getting married or are planning to get married, the first thing that they need to do is to understand their relationship with money, to examine how they have been spending money, and fix that area of their lives. If they have, if you are a gambler, if you are a spender, if you find that you've been wasting, learn to start living by a budget. Get yourself out of debt. You might not be able to get out of all the debt depending on how much you have, but at least you need to start, because you don't want to go into a marriage with debt that is going to burden your partner. And that is something like being transparent to each other, to let each other know, okay, like I owe this amount of money. And, like each person just making sure, being transparent with each other, right? And then planning how you want to do it when you get into marriage, just like the brother Jonakim say, are you gonna have joint accounts? Are you gonna have separate accounts? Sometimes people will start out with joint account, and then afterwards, based on circumstances, they start having separate accounts, and that works for their relationship. But whatever it is that works for your relationship, just make sure it's important so that you don't end up having problems, I mean, like money quarrels or arguments or anything like that, because you would have already decided just exactly how you're going to arrange and work your finances. But most importantly, understanding your relationship with money and being willing to cooperate with your partner.
Wonderful. That's a big one as well, Dr. Tony. So I believe that you covered it all. Looking at how couples should prepare legally and financially for marriage. It's open communication, as was said before. Discussing financial goals, values, individual financial situation to ensure that both partners are on the same page. Financial planning, where you create a balance sheet or budget or whatever it is, and discuss potential career changes, inheritances, debt management. Prenuptial agreements were mentioned, legal consultation, your money habits, and all of that. By taking these steps, couples can legally and financially prepare for marriage, setting a strong foundation for their future together. So I see a question in the chat before we move on to anything else, saying, what is the difference between a prenuptial agreement and a will? So we said before that the prenup is actually a contract that is signed before marriage, about how the asset, debts, and rights are treated if the marriage ends, or that kind of thing. And then the will or last testament is a legal document that also specifies how you want your property, assets, and care for. So your will can be your will is your individual will. So the two of you in the marriage could have a will. The prenup you actually sign before, and it tends to take into account assets that you acquired before the marriage. And also I see Dr. Sean put something in the chat there that also explains it's a bit. It says that prenuptial agreement protects your assets, and at the end point, those assets stay with you. A will is designed to have your assets given to your living loved ones. I don't know if Sister Arlene, does that make it any clearer for you?
Yes, Sister Katie, I got it. Thanks.
Oh, okay. All right. Wonderful.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. So prenups are, like we had said before, historically rare, but growing in acceptance. Some little statistics here. It says in the UK, 42% of people said they considered prenups a good idea. In the US, about 20% of couples have prenups, though around 50% of adults say they are interested in having one. So we see a shift in attitude towards prenuptial agreement. I'm not sure if the shift could be, it might be more education around it. I'm not sure what is causing the shift. I don't know if anyone else here would like to give probably your view on what is causing the shift towards people becoming more accepting of prenups. Go ahead, Sister Verona.
Overall, I think prenups are out of fear. They are driven by fear. And then it's either your past experience or the experience of someone close to you, or you have heard the story, because lots of times people, the ones who let us call them rich, ones who are rich want to protect their assets from the poorer one. And there are times when people think, let's say I know I have a lot and I want to protect it just in case anything happens down the road, and the other person, the man, want to just take away all I had. He hasn't contributed much. He came and saw me with this and he wants it. And then two, it also protects the person whose lifestyle had to change or change after the wedding, so that if there's a rupture and break, I don't come out worse than I went in. But then there are also people who think that they are the creme de la creme, and they do everything for their side, and this is it, like the Medes and Persians. And then afterwards, you realize, like with me, if I were the person, then afterwards, I realized that you actually have more than I have, and then suddenly I want the prenuptial prenup agreement change, and then the person said, no, that this was what you wanted, you insisted on it, I'm not going to change it. So it can be malicious, but at the same time, it can be very protective.
Okay. All right. Thank you for chiming in on that, Sister Princess. All right. Go ahead, Dr. Tony, and then Sister Opal.
Yeah, to add to what Sister Princess said, I also think that it is driven by the realities of life, because people change.
Yes.
That's just the thing. No matter how much you, as Christians, we want to think that, oh, if God put somebody in your life, then everything is supposed to go all right and so on. God cannot stop people from changing if they choose to change, right? So it is best to be wise. Sometimes a person will think, oh, I'm married to the best person. I can just leave a will and make the person the executor. And so everybody will get what they're supposed to get after I'm gone. And then you see from other people's life that somebody dies and then the child have to be fighting to get what they want, what they need. The parents are left with nothing. And, making sure that you protect your family members, as well as even sometimes you have to also protect your partner. So it's really, I think it's when we look at the realities of life and what really happened, despite the good intentions we have and, like the positive uh, thoughts that we have about the people around us or our family members, we can see how it really turns out differently sometimes. So we want to make sure at least that we secure what needs to be secured.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you, Dr. Tony.
So being wise as serpent and harmless as doves.
Thank you. All right. Go ahead, Sister Opal.
Okay, so I think prenup is gaining in popularity. I think the reason is multifaceted. One, I think when we look at the empirical evidence of divorce rate, not just in the world, but also in the church, that kind of give you a clue as to how successful marriages really are. That's one. Two, I think a lot of people are also delaying marriage, either intentionally or circumstantially. And in doing so, persons would have acquired debt and also significant asset prior to getting married. Also, you have people who have been married before, and this might be their second marriage. So they really want to protect, like, maybe family, children that they would have had before in a previous marriage, or assets that they would have had with a previous partner. So it's multidimensional as to why it's gaining in popularity.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you for sharing that. I see in the chat that that someone said, I think the shift is a result of the continued rise in divorce rates since World War II, when women became a major part of the workforce. Um, Brother Paul, I don't want to call you up, but do you want to give some more context to that? Speak to that a little bit more. You want to unmute and speak to that?
Oh, you mean my response to why they
Shift. Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. I stepped away for a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, prenup has become very important because of one out of every two marriages, even among Christians, is ending in divorce. So, and assets is what gets stripped. I mean, that's the bitterest part of the breakup or of the divorce, and so that's the best way to protect. If you have much greater asset, that's the best way to kind of protect it, because either party, it works both ways. Either party can, that's the thing they go after the most very often. Sometimes children is the issue, but very often it's money. I want to get as much from you as I can. So people are learning now, the person with the greater asset, seeing that it can go either way, they go in and make those legal contracts.
Right. Awesome. All right. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, let's look at this video here. It's entitled Why a Prenup is the Best Thing You Can Do. And then we look at a short video from Dave Ramsey. And then we'll examine both perspectives for a little bit.
but I'm a Christian. And I feel that if I sign a prenup, I don't have faith. Like, I believe that my marriage is just going to end. A prenup is the best insurance you will ever have in your life.
You're gonna wanna take notes on today's show and let us know in the comment section below, how do you feel about prenups? Now, before we hop into today's show, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you can be notified every single time we drop a new video. Alrighty, now, let's jump into the show.
Welcome to the table, yeah, yeah. We gon' get real, we gon' get right. Oh, building up wealth, we gon' give life. Welcome to the table, yeah. Welcome to the table, build wealth, life. Welcome to the table.
40% of all engagement proposals occur, this is interesting, between the month of November and February. So a lot of people right now are contemplating, proposing. Brothers, congratulations. And if you just recently got engaged, hey, congratulations. And about to make that move. As younger couples are tying the knot, watch this, you guys. A growing trend in prenups are happening. I love it. I just love it. Gen Z, 41% of Gen Z respondents who are engaged or have been married said that they entered into a prenup prior to getting married. 47% of my crew, the millennial crew respondents who are engaged or have been married, said that they entered into a prenup. So nearly 50% of people in the millennials are saying prenup. 41% of Gen Z are saying prenup, prenup, prenup. And oftentimes when I say prenup, I think a lot of people are scared of the word prenup. One, because of the lack of education around prenups. Two, I think we've seen the mishandling of prenups in the past from celebrities per se, right? And so I remember I was recently on the stage somewhere and they asked me my thoughts on prenups. And you guys know me, I'm all for a prenup. My future wife will sign a prenup. I will sign a prenup, you know, because I want to protect both of us. But there is this narrative inside of the Christian community that if you sign a prenup, you're already saying your marriage is going to fail. And I was like, I just don't feel that way. I don't feel as if I marry someone, I'm walking into it saying it's going to fail. I don't believe that I lack faith because I have a prenup, you know? And so while I was on this stage, I got off the stage and an amazing lady told me about this guy named Aaron Thomas. And when I looked him up, man, he has a book called The Prenup Prescription, Meet the Premarital Contract, designed to, watch this, you guys, save your marriage. So he's changing this whole narrative of, hey, the prenup actually saves your marriage. It doesn't hurt the marriage. And so as I was looking him up, because I really wanted to make sure that I have the right person on the show to have this conversation, especially as we're in 2024, especially as people are proposing right now, and as we're dating, I'm dating, right? How do we have this conversation? Because I really do believe that if you have a little bit of something, and that's all of us, there's a part of me that believes that you're not being a good steward of your resources if you're not having a prenup, if you're not having the conversation of a prenup. And so again, I'm not married, I'm not a legal expert in this field, but I've seen prenups save people millions of dollars. I've seen prenups save people homes, save people careers, save people livelihood, because who they married 20 years ago loved them and they were able to come to terms when love was there. But then when they broke up, love wasn't there, but their prenup was. And it saved not just them, but it even saved their families, their kids, that experience. And so y'all, today we're going to talk about how prenups can really save your marriage. And we have the attorney himself, the guy who has been in this field for years, at the table today. I called him and said, hey man, I need you to come. I don't want to do this over Zoom. I need you to come into town because I want to have an in-depth conversation about everything around marriage. Like, this is not just going to be prenups. It's cool. I really want us to get educated on what is marriage. Like, when we just sit down, not spiritually, because I know some of y'all Christian people going to say, oh, I know what marriage is. I know what the Bible says. I'm with you. Okay. But we're going to break it all down today. So, ladies and gentlemen, Aaron is in the building. What's going on, Aaron? That was a long intro. I'm sorry, bro. I had to set it up, though.
No, thank you for that. And thanks for having me.
Oh,
it's
man.
a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, man, for coming. The prenup prescription. I want to get straight into it because I think people watching this show are like, all right, let's understand this, right? And I'm opening up your book because, y'all, this book is amazing. We are going to link his book in today's show notes until where you can check it out. But, Aaron, what exactly is marriage? And I say marriage, I'm not talking about from the spiritual angle. We know what that is, right? But on paper, throughout the United States of America, what exactly is marriage?
Marriage is the most important financial contract that you will ever sign in your life.
This man just said financial contract.
And a lot of people are going to have a visceral reaction to hearing that. Obviously, that's not the only thing that marriage is. But you go to a courthouse and fill out paperwork when you get married. There's obviously wide-ranging legal implications to the fact of getting married. A lot of people look at it as, two people becoming one, certainly in the romantic sense or the spiritual sense, but also legally in a financial sense, you are becoming one couple, one entity in the eyes of the law.
So break that down. So when you say financial in the eyes of the law, right, that means bank accounts are all the same. Now, when I get married, let's say me and my wife get married, my debt becomes her debt. Her debt becomes my debt?
So there's something that I call the one paycheck rule, because it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Let's break it down.
When you get married and you get that first paycheck, a little bit goes into your checking, a little bit goes into your savings account, a little bit goes to pay off a mortgage or to pay on a car, and it goes in all these different places. Most people know that whatever you bring into your marriage is considered your separate property. You're supposed to keep it. You're supposed to hold on to what you have coming in, and what you build together is the ours.
Yeah.
What a lot of people don't know is everything that first paycheck touches has now been commingled.
Whoa.
In the eyes of the law. And if there's ever a need to separate your assets back out, it's the burden of the person who's trying to establish their separate property to prove how much in your retirement account is from your premarital contributions and how much is from your contributions during the marriage, or how much of the equity in your house came from money that you earned prior to the marriage and how much came from your contributions after the marriage. And a lot of people think, wait, but the house is in my name, the retirement account's in my name. They didn't pay any of these bills. They didn't pay the mortgage. What do you mean that I have to split my retirement or my house where I'm the only one who contributed to it? And in the law, in the eyes of the law, it doesn't matter whose name is on the bank account. It doesn't matter whose name is on the title to your house. If you contributed money that you earned during the marriage, then a portion of whatever that asset is considered marital property and is up for division if that marriage comes to an end.
This is why we had the expert in the building, because you just made me upset. You just said, if her name is not on the title of the mortgage, or his name, if her credit wasn't proved, but if we're married and she put $500 into the bank account, and this is the same bank account that the mortgage came out of, she could legally say, I helped pay for the mortgage. And her name is nowhere on the documents.
And even if she didn't pay a dime towards it, your money that you earn over the course of your marriage is considered marital property. Every dollar that you earn during your marriage is considered to have been earned by the two of you.
Okay. This is why he's here. So let's say, Aaron, I'm married, she's married. I put my money into Bank of America. She puts her money into Wells Fargo, but we're married. We keep our money completely separate. Then let's say we have a bank at BB&T, and I put 50% of the mortgage into BB&T. She puts 50% of the mortgage into BB&T. Is she still, as my legal wife, is she still held liable? Like, can she still come after some of my money that's in my bank account as my wife if we were to divorce? Although we're not on the same bank account, we put our money in a separate account that paid the bills?
Absolutely.
Oh, hell.
Absolutely.
Oh,
And that's why I say that, not only is marriage a financial contract, it's a contract that nobody's read. And the first time that people find out what this contract says, most people, is when they're sitting in a divorce lawyer's office 10, 15, 20 years down the line, and they're saying, Aaron, what do you mean I have to split my retirement, my house, my car?
Hold on, Aaron, wait, pause, bro. This is, my blood pressure getting high. So you trying to tell me if I have a 401k that's coming from my job, and I put it in there, she's never contribute to the 401k. She also, because she's my wife or because he's her husband, they got to split all of that.
They have to split all of that.
Recently, I've completed my full estate plan, and it's been an emotional journey, if I'm going to be honest with you. But now I have a peace of mind knowing that my family and /life insurance for your free quote, or click the link in today's show notes. Protect your family's future and attain a peace of mind. Act right now, and let's get back to today's show. This goes back to what you just said. It is the most important financial contract in your life, because she gets access, he gets access to anything and everything. You get married on July 1st you get married on January 1st of 2024. January 2nd, any income that comes in after that, spouses have access to all that.
It's all considered marital property up for division. And that's why I also say that, people who are kind of anti-prenup, if you are married, you have a prenup. You either have your own customized prenup where you have chosen the terms for it, or you are accepting the default prenup that was written by the state that you happen to live in probably over 100 years ago. And the more time goes on, the less likely it is that that prenup is going to fit the terms of your marriage, what you expect your marriage to be.
Wow. What state do you live in?
I live in Georgia.
All right, let's talk about Georgia. But you can do prenups in your company does prenups in all states, right?
That's right.
Okay, cool. But let's talk about Georgia since you live there, right? So break that down, because I've said that before and people's like, nah, man, it's not that bad. And I'm like, but why? Because here's my philosophy, and correct me if I'm wrong. Why do I want the state of Georgia to tell me what's going to happen rather than me and my wife just figure out what's going to happen up front, right? So let's paint a picture of, let's just talk about divorces. On average, how much does a divorce cost on average in the state of Georgia? Just on basic level.
Yes. On average, each spouse is going to spend $15,000 in attorney's fees during their divorce case. The average contested divorce takes at least a year to complete. In post-COVID days with all the backups from the courts, sometimes it's a year and a half. I have personally worked on a divorce case that lasted 4 years, and our client alone paid over $1 million in legal fees over the course of those 4 years. And the more money that you make, the more money that you accumulate over the course of the marriage, the more likely that your case is going to be more expensive than that average of $30,000 a couple.
So clearly $1 million. This means this was either a celebrity, well-known, very influential, or just a very financially well-off individual.
Yes, they had tens of millions, to debate about, but yeah, it can get expensive real quick.
So did that person have a prenup?
They did not have a prenup.
And if they would have had a prenup, would they have spent $1 million for the divorce?
No chance.
If I have a prenup in the state of Georgia, will I spend $15,000 as a fee per average?
A prenup can cover anything that has to do with asset division, dividing your assets and debts, and anything that has to do with alimony. A prenup cannot cover anything that has to do with child custody or child support. But typically, if you are not fighting about financial issues where there is a potential payday, where there's money on the line that makes it worth it financially, mathematically, to spend that money on attorney's fees, people are going to be much more likely to work out the issues with the kids, and the child support versus, if the court buys my argument, I could come up an additional $1 million versus, just settling the case. And so taking the money issues, taking asset and debt division off the table, taking alimony off the table, could save millions and millions of dollars nationwide if people would just get a prenup on the front end as a matter of course.
Now, you said something that prenup doesn't cover. I didn't know that. So prenups doesn't cover kids as far as in what parent gets what kid, right?
Right. Okay. Prenup can't cover custody or child support.
Okay.
Custody has to be decided based on what is in the child's best interest.
Okay.
And what may be in the child's best interest, before the child's even born, how do you even determine what's going to be in a child's best interest? Somebody could go crazy. Somebody could turn out to be a great parent. Someone could turn out to be an absentee parent.
Right.
And so the court is always going to retain the ability to make that decision at the time that custody is being decided.
And what about child support? We can't talk about that up front in the prenup. Like, hey, if we have kids, I'll give you X amount of dollars per the kid. Or is it the same for the custody? It's like you don't know what it's going to cost to take care of that kid because of the situation.
One, you don't know what the child's needs are going to be. You don't know what the resources of the parents and the ability to pay child support at that time are going to be. And you also don't know which parent's going to have custody. You're not going to be paying child support if the kids are living with you 95% of the time, right? So all of those things come into play, and that can only be determined at the time custody is being decided.
All right, cool. So on average, the average person will spend, per spouse, will spend about $15,000 on a divorce if there was a divorce. I think this is very important because the studies are showing, correct me if I'm wrong because you're in this space, I think right now we're seeing 52% of American people end up in a divorce. As far as I know, I'm sorry, I said it wrong. 52% of American marriages are ending up in divorces.
Yeah, I don't think there's super reliable data on it, but it is certainly more than 40%.
Okay.
Sometimes it gets up to about 50%. The 1980s saw a 50% divorce rate, so it's a lot.
It's a lot. All right. So $15,000 for the average spend to a divorce. That's $30,000 to get a divorce between the two people. And we are having a problem with people saying, I want to get a prenup. And I think the reason why we're having a problem with people saying they want to get a prenup, one is for the lack of education, and two, one of the most complaints that I hear is I'm walking into my marriage without faith and already expecting it to fail. Ask someone, because they're watching right now, they're in the comments saying that right now, right? Ask someone who's been in that space, what would you say to someone that come to you and say, well, my husband wants to get a prenup, but I just don't, he's expecting something to fail. He's expecting us to fail in this marriage. What would you say as a human and then also as an attorney in this field?
Yeah, I love that you asked this question because you can't talk about prenups without talking about the stigma and the misconceptions surrounding prenuptial agreements. And that's what I thought before I got into family law. I thought the same thing that most of these people out here are thinking, that that a prenup is just planning for your divorce.
Yeah.
But really, what you're doing, I think that a prenup should be looked at as a partnership agreement for your marriage, right? If you're going to go into a business partnership with somebody, would you say, we'll just figure out who owns what percentage of the company if one of us leaves the company at the end of the day? No, you would probably have an attorney draft up an agreement and get very clear about what are each person's rights and responsibilities with respect to the business. And yes, you would also define what happens if one of the partners leaves the business. Now, you're not doing that because you want the business to fail. You're doing that so that you have clarity while the business is going on. You're drafting this partnership agreement so that things move smoothly while the business is happening. And I think that you should look at a prenup as the same thing. It is the partnership agreement for your marriage.
Yeah.
And what I learned from over the course of doing about 1,000 divorces over the past 2 decades is that things don't go wrong, they start wrong.
Whoa. Break that down. Things don't go wrong, they start wrong. Well, how are we starting wrong?
So people don't know how to combine their financial lives, particularly in today's world. So my parents have been married for 57 years. They just celebrated 57 years together. They got married in the 1960s. In the 1960s, the average couple getting married was getting married at, say, age 21. And they were coming in a complete financial blank slate. They probably maybe had one bank account between the two of them. Credit cards were not really a thing in the 1960s.
Facts.
Student loans, you could work your way through school. They weren't, you know, 6 figures of student loans that people were taking out.
Yep.
They likely had 0 to 1 cars between them, no equity in a home, no business. And you contrast that with the average couple who's getting married today. First of all, they're not getting married at 21. They're more likely getting married in their 30s. And that average couple is likely to have, each spouse is likely to have 4 to 5 bank accounts each, 3 to 4 credit cards each, student loans in the tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Maybe they got some equity in a condo or a house. They've each got their own car. They've got 1 or 2 retirement accounts because they didn't roll over the first, you know, to their current retirement account. They may have a small business. And so if the couple getting married in the 1960s is like a blank slate, they're like a startup in their garage, starting from complete scratch. The average couple getting married today is like a corporate merger in terms of the complexity. And you would simply never do something of that magnitude without a clear agreement on what exactly is it we're signing up for. What's yours? What's mine? What's ours? How's the money going to flow? How are we going to pay for expenses? Are we 50-50 on everything? Are we paying pro rata? Are we putting all of our money into one bank account? Do we have money going into separate bank accounts? It's something that is so complex. And the idea that people go into this just saying, I guess we deposit our income into the joint bank account now when they get married, it's no wonder that the divorce rate is so high. It's just a recipe for disaster if you go into this willy-nilly. And so people have to be looking at it, give respect to the complexity that combining your financial lives really is.
All right, I'm pausing this one for a little bit, then we're gonna listen to a short 8-minute video, and then afterwards we'll speak.
Hey, Jesse is in Atlanta starting off this hour. Hi, Jesse. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for taking my call. How are you?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
So my husband and I have, we read the Total Money Makeover, and we worked diligently to get out of debt. And thankfully now we've paid off our debts and we own our home.
Way
so
to go.
We are now in the process. Thank you. It was actually through your book. God did amazing things through you. But so now we're in the process of looking towards wealth building. And because of that, I've been looking at podcasts and different videos on wealth building. But I've been noticing a recurring theme among a lot of these very well-known people. And it's that they use these phrases. Everybody has a prenup. Either the government makes one or you make one yourself. And I have always been someone that thinks very negatively towards prenups. My husband and I, when we were married, granted we were broke, but we always felt that the word divorce was out of the question, and that if you're even considering a prenup, then you're opening yourself up to the possibility of a divorce. So I wanted your opinion as a Christian, as somebody who is wealthy. What is your perspective on prenups, especially in the Christian realm?
So it's more in theory because it obviously doesn't apply to you all.
Correct, but I guess the reason that I'm asking it is because it kind of helps me in discerning, are these people that I should get advice from, like wealth building? Is this people that I should be listening to?
Well, I don't know who you're listening to, and don't tell me, but typically what happens in something like that is a financial person is financial people and legal people both are the world's worst, and I had to break myself of this when I started doing this several years ago, are the world's worst at looking at life through only one lens. Okay? Mm-hmm. You're asking a question through a relational lens, a spiritual lens, and a wealth building and legal lens. They're only looking at it for wealth protection. If you could live a life, which you can't, that wealth protection was separated from your relationships and was separated from your spiritual walk, you can't. But if you could, then a prenup would be a slam dunk. And in their minds, therefore, a prenup is a slam dunk because they only see it through that lens. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I wouldn't necessarily discredit them for all of their advice as somehow being heresy or something like that. I would just say whoever you're listening to is only looking at the advice they're giving through a singular lens. Our approach is we believe that personal finance is 80% behavior, and we've proven that. It's not about math, and it's not about that stuff. So our approach is that the prenup actually could end up stunting your growth because you're not all in on working together. So when I first started this show, I was 100% never get a prenup under any circumstances. Don't get married if you love your stuff more than you love her. Period. Mm-hmm. Just don't do it. That's how I started. Now, having done this a long time, I have one caveat that I've added about a decade ago to this, and that is if two people are getting married, one of them has extreme wealth, there's an extreme difference. Like I had one guy who was marrying a lady who had $10 million and he didn't have 2 nickels. Okay? I suggested a prenup to them to keep their relationship pure, about relationship and not about money. And the bigger reason I suggested it to them is my now experience 30 years later has been the prenup in that case is not really for that couple. It's for all the weirdos in their families. Because all of a sudden, crazy mother-in-law swoops in from the other side once the $10 million golden goose shows up. And you got to look at, then you got a little piece of paper and you look at her and go, sorry, Ma, got a prenup. Can't do nothing. And so it gives them a defense mechanism against crazy in their family, because one thing we know about wealth is it magnifies everything, and that includes crazy. So when you got crazy members in your family and you marry $10 million, dadgum, the crazy comes out, you know? So in that case, I did recommend a prenup in extreme differences. But for 99% of the people, just regular folk getting married, and, you know, I had one lady call me up one time and said her boyfriend had a 1968 frame-up restoration Mustang and he wanted a prenup. And, you know, my answer to that is don't marry this bozo. He loves his car more than you. You know, that's the answer to that. And that's not a, you know, that might not jive with these other guys' podcasts or whoever it is you're listening to. But most of the time, I agree with where you're coming from, Jesse, and that is the prenup is simply planning the divorce in advance. Oh, 52% of the marriages end in divorce. No, they don't. No, they don't. Not when you take out people with 4-year degrees, not when you take out people who regularly attend a house of worship, not when you take out people who the parents on neither side were divorced. When you take those statistics out, almost 90% of the people make their marriage work. Oh, and you're older than 22 years old, and you didn't have a baby before marriage. You can take these things out. Boom, 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 boom. Success rate of marriage goes way up. You make $50,000 a year or more household income. You didn't have a baby before marriage. You didn't get married in high school. You know, all these kinds. You take all that crap out, you got about a 90% survival rate of marriages. So that 52% figure includes a whole bunch of other crap going on of people who weren't going to make it anyway. So you can't use 52% of marriages end in divorce because they really don't.
Jesse, I'm going to ask Dave a question on your behalf. Is that cool?
Yeah.
So Dave, let me throw a caveat in here. Tell me what you think about this. A 55-year-old who's done pretty well, not extreme wealth, spouse passes away, and marries a 57-year-old who's done pretty well, spouse passes away. Both have kids, both have cousins. Does it make sense in that situation, again, to protect from family? And
if you wanted to, but you've just got to be very careful because it's you're trying to say this stuff, the distribution of this stuff is more important than this relationship. And man, that's dangerous.
And so if you don't have if you don't have an exit ramp, we got to figure this out.
Yeah.
We got to figure it out.
Yeah. If you don't trust her to leave your Bible to your son from the first marriage whose mom died,
then don't marry her.
Right. You know, that's what I'm saying. And so there's a whole thing that goes into play here. But yeah, by and large, I'm anti-prenup. That would because I believe you're planning your divorce, believe you're asking for trouble, and it cheapens the whole affair and puts a dollar figure to it. And I'm not doing that. Now,
All right, everybody. I see a lot has been taking place in the chat, but I haven't been able to follow all of it. All right, so we we would have said some things before we saw those videos. As we can see, well, the Bible does not directly mention legal contracts like prenups, but it speaks deeply about marriage as a covenant. Um, as we can see here, some believe prenups contradict um, biblical covenant because they imply planning for a divorce. Others say a prenup can be prudent if motives are healthy, like we um, discussed before, protecting children or death. I'd like to know if my potential refuse a prenup, then is it a red flag? If the person probably strongly believe in the whole trust we see here in one of the videos. Go ahead, Dr. Tony.
You know what? I love Dave Ramsey
Yes.
and everything that he encourages.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I have to admit is that he's an idealist.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you listen to the lawyer who is dealing with divorce rate,
Right.
notice what Dave did. He took out a lot of things. He took out a lot of things to say, well, 90% of marriages will work. And it is true. If Christians really decide to be Christians
Mm-hmm.
and live the way the Lord wants us to,
Mm-hmm.
then there would be no need at all for
Right.
the prenup, just in case of divorce, because we have already established that prenup is for more than just divorce, right? So for when it comes to that, we could always say, okay, yes, but here is the thing.
Yes.
You don't know what is the future holds. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you just start out a marriage,
Mm-hmm.
nobody could tell me that my marriage would ever end. I had no intention of it ending. My husband had no intention of it ending. But
Yes.
there came a time when he said to me, though the way that I used to think when we got married, I don't think like that now. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
He changed, right?
Yes.
So to me, it's like I would love for the world to live like Dave just, like explained a while ago. I would love that.
Mm-hmm.
But that is not our reality. That is not our reality. And divorce rate is very high, even in the church, right?
That's true.
So it is obvious that there is a need for prenup for more than just in case of divorce.
That's true. That's oh my gosh. I think it's such a tough decision to make sometimes. Going between the two viewpoint and um probably it depends on yes, that's true. I can see that no one ever goes on the aisle with divorce in their mind, but we see so many times where this happens. Yeah, and if you're doing it for more than just protection of assets and speaking through it with your partner too might change how this is seen and that kind of thing. For those of us who have never, like especially for those of us who have never been married, how can we start a discussion about prenup How do you think we can start a discussion with it about this with our potentials?
I think education,
Mm-hmm.
and if you are uncomfortable with it, do it in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Like your therapist, like be the mediator, talk about it, and you just express yourself, express your feelings about it, educate your partner about it. And so, it is going to be left up to them how they choose to respond.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Someone said send them love above link discussion. That is true. Yeah, because I do think that most times something like prenup is not it's not discussed going into marriages, especially Christian marriages for real. I don't think that we talk a lot about this, even educating others in our church about how we should go about this. I don't see a lot of discussion around it. So I think it makes it hard sometimes for persons to start this discussion. Go ahead, Elder John Akim.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud there. Because to me, again, communication, if you go to marry somebody, you should be able to talk to them. I mean, you have to know tone, time, and all these kind of things. But you should be able to talk to them. You should be able to discuss things with them. And be wise enough to know when to talk about it. So at some point, you can just bring it up like in a casual conversation. What do you think? You know, see what the person's thinking is at. And then you can go deeper and deeper and deeper and say, you think we should get one? Do you think we need one? I think we should get one. You know, stuff like that. But I think someone you're going to marry, you should be able to talk to that person. Yes, I think that's very important. You should be able to discuss things with that person. Because you're going to spend your rest of your life with that person anyways.
It's
So
true.
what you're going to do is hide in a corner. But you get what I mean? It's just talk to people. We also have conversation. I mean, some conversations are more difficult than others, and so it might take some time. But at some point, certain things you should be able to talk about it, and the person shouldn't be feeling a type of way. You understand?
Yeah.
Right. You know? Yeah.
Yes. That's true. That's true. Oh my goodness. All right. Is there anything else anyone would like to share? Anything coming out of those two videos that you want to talk about?
I would like to say something.
Yes, go ahead, Brother Martel.
Um, I wonder why people have problem with that thing there. Call it prenups.
Prenups.
Right. I wonder why. Because if I get into a relationship, and I had the wife of an house and get married to her, live in the house, she have children. Really and truly, I don't expect her to leave the house for me and leave out a child and children, especially if I think about getting married again and maybe I died before the wife. The wife will have the house where the children goes. So I mean, if she to me, if she want to leave her home, or house to her child, that's okay, that's fine. If she want to leave what she earn, her money to her children, I have seen where so many children, even my own, my father died, and the wife she had her children, she sell the place and she build one next house and she give it, and she and her family enjoying it. Not saying that I am disagreeing with that, but I have seen where so many children suffered, and then people who gain it does not even deserve it. Personally, for me, they don't deserve it to how they react and behave and treat the children. So I have no problem with that. And it shouldn't be a big argument what she want to do with it. Well, if she don't, if he or she have not having a children, now that's different.
Yes.
Yeah, that's totally different. But when children come into play, and even when I look at the family background and how they treat the wife or or how they treat the husband, you have to be careful, especially where you live. I have seen in our church where we have built a house for our church sister. Husband died, and the family member threw her for the house, threw her for the land. We are now, the church is now built a house. She's living there. One other church in the district planning to build a next house for her. And the church land, that means nobody can throw her out of the house at that point in time. But I have seen so many things, and we have to be very careful when it come on to this prenup situation.
Yes. Go ahead, Sister Nancy.
Good evening, everyone. No, I'm single, never married, don't have children. I've worked all my life and have secured my, and so I would say that prenup is important even if you don't have children, because believe it or not, believe it or not, there's a society out there of serial married, people pursuing marriages for a come up. What is it called? And so you always have to be careful. I do not have life insurance because I do not want to be more valuable to somebody dead than alive. And the same thing, if you marry somebody, you got some kind of something. And believe me, for somebody who has nothing, a little bit you got, you might think, oh, well, you're valuable to them more alive. But there in their mind, you never know. After you have two arguments, they're thinking something different. That your little bag you secure is more valuable to them than your life. Okay, so just be careful. Be careful. Be careful. Don't ever think. One thing I'll tell you. One thing I learned that somebody don't have to be having less than you to try to get what you have. Okay, just know that
Right.
somebody don't, so they can have more than you have. Okay, and they're planning to get your bag. Okay, I'm not saying I mean I'll just give you an example. There's a guy that I knew for some years, and we've always been cordial friends and whatnot. He's getting towards retirement. I got 10 more years to retire, to be what you call it,
A retirement
to,
age.
no, be, well, I'm vested for retirement, but I got 10 more years to retire, to become maximum to retire. And he is already reached his, and he was like, let's get married, let's get married. No, he known me for a long time, a long time. Okay. We've talked about, we've been friends a long time, but he wants to get married. And he's like, when he says, let's get married, the other thing that came out his mouth was like, but you got to sell your house. And I was like, what? I'm like looking at him like, are you for real saying something like that? All immediately, I thought I'm more valuable to him financially than anything else. You see what I'm saying? And you don't want to get into that. You see what I'm saying? Now, you have to consider most states have their own, like he said, prenup,
Right.
which, and Social Security require you to be married 10.5 years before you can share each other Social Security. Same for retirement. Had to be you had to be married to the person for 10 years before they're gonna split your retirement. I had 10 more years to go. He had already done his. Okay? Does he know that? Yes, he does. Okay? So believe me, there are people scheming there. He thought I'm not sensible enough to know. He's done his, and we're about the same age. But I'm just saying he was older than I am. But I'm just telling you, people are scheming. When they start to talk, you're talking about romantic proposal, and you start bringing in assets, confusion right there. Confusion. Leave it alone.
I have a question, Sister Nancy. May I ask?
Go ahead.
Does he have a house also?
Yes, he does have a house. And I said, what are you going to do with your house? He said he's going to rent his house. And then the other thing is like, I said, you know me for a while. We've been talking back and forth. You know I'm smarter than that, right? I said, is that all? Is that the best you can come with? So, but we talk, we really, really were, good friends talk and whatnot. But I'm just telling you, he wanted me to sell my property. And he's like, he had it all planned out in his head. We're going to move to a certain state and we're going to buy a house. And don't worry, it's going to be in your name.
Yeah.
I said, that don't sound like a marriage. I said, no, 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 no. If you marry somebody, you want to own a house with the person. I'm like, do you have another, right away I'm thinking, do you have another woman living in another house in another state with her name on the house? In my mind, I'm thinking, what's going on here?
Gosh. Oh my
So,
goodness.
so anyways, I'm just telling you, he planned to rent his house, but I must sell mine, buy a new house. And I was like, you know what? I'm a single woman, have no children, nobody, something happens to me. He planned to take the whole bag. Okay? So be careful.
Oh my goodness. All right. Thank you for sharing that one, Sister Nancy. All right. If no one else would like to share anything else,
Yeah,
then
I wanted to share
yes,
something.
go ahead, Dr. Tony.
And I think it all has to do with, like the way we are as individuals. Because I met someone, and in talking to the person, he said right away, probably on the second time we're having a conversation, that he would take his child name out of his bank account and put my name in it. And it turned me off immediately because, and I said to him, I said, no, I don't think you should do that. We should have a bank account together, but whatever you have with your child belongs to your child. Because there is absolutely no way I am going to disinherit my child for anybody at all. Everything in my mind, my child's name is in everything I have. And everything that I have before a marriage belongs to my child. So therefore, I don't understand. For me, as I said, people are different. I do not understand why you would want to take your child name out of the account that you had with her before and put my name in there. I'm just coming into your life. You understand? So I mean, like, you don't know people's intentions and how they think. But for me, I think you should protect your family. And remember what Dave Ramsey said, that a lot of times it is really about protecting your spouse from the crazy people in your family, right? Other people in your family. Because family members can come sometimes and just fight a partner. Like Brother Martel Smith gave an example, where the woman, they built a house for her and they put her out of it after her husband died. So, I mean, I think we need to, it's sad that as Christians we have to have this kind of conversation
True.
based on how the Lord said, for us as Christians to live, but it's just the realities of life.
Yeah. It's indeed difficult, but true. Thank you for sharing that. Not everyone will have that kind of heart to have said something like that to someone. But I mean, you're not trying to get into the relationship to get into people's assets and whatever else. All right, I'm going to take Sister Opal, then Brother York.
Okay, so you know my position. I do believe that prenups have their place.
Yeah.
However, I think also that people can take it too far and also use it as a position of control or to usurp or authority or dominance over another person sometimes. But I want to share an experience that I had, and I want to hear what the group think about it.
Yeah.
So I was getting to know this person. So he was much older than I am and well endowed financially. He is involved in real estate. I am involved in real estate, but he has way more houses than I do. He was previously married and he was burnt badly by that experience where he was ripped financially. So I guess for him, he's saying the second time around, he's gonna protect himself, which fair enough. But something something he said he's gonna ask his future spouse to sign a prenup. Okay, fine. But also he wants to move out of the house that he lives in. So he lives in a fairly decent sized house. So he wants to move out of that house to go into a very tiny house with his whoever his spouse is gonna be, just so that the current spouse will not. So in the event of a divorce, the current house is not split between both partners. And in my eyes, as much as I do believe prenup has its place, I just think that's taking it a bit too far. I want to hear what the group thinks or anybody thinks about that scenario.
All right, you heard the scenario that Sister Opal just presented. Anyone would like to take that?
Yeah, I'd like to try.
All right,
I
yeah.
don't think, I mean, it's his house. If he doesn't want to share it, like the future spouse has nothing in it. So if he doesn't want to share it and that is his house, then he's free to move out. I think what she should have a say in is what size house they go and live in together, since they're going to be living in a house together. If they're going to buy, he wants them to buy a new house that they share together, then definitely she should help to decide what size it should be. But anything that is his before the marriage, I don't think that the wife has any say in it. The future wife has any say in that. It should be up to him.
Okay. All right.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi, I'd just say from hearing what he's saying, it sounds like, you know that saying, once bitten, twice shy. He's felt the burn, so he's just protecting himself, just as we would if if you put yourself in his shoes, if you had all of those assets and you'd been bitten once before, you'd protect yourself. So he's just protecting himself.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you for sharing that. Are you wanting to, Dr. Carr, are you wanting to answer to Opal? If not, we'll take York since his hand was up first, and
Oh,
then we'll
go
take
ahead, York first. Yeah, it was
Okay.
really just go ahead. His hand was up before mine. Go ahead.
All right. Yes, go ahead, York. She it sounds like she's gonna chime in on the general topic.
Thank you, Sister Carr. Oh, just a second. Oh, sorry. All right. So two things. Thing one, so I'm not answering Opal's point. This is my own bit right here. Sorry for those who are not so good with the patter, but I gotta preface my point with this. Come fast in my business. Here we go. Personal experience. I was my father's power of attorney before he died 3 years ago. I he he he's the dad of three natural born children, one adopted, and in his final years, he was putting together his will. He sought out a new, I would say, a neutral party to help put that will together. A cousin of his who was very upstanding soldier and retired soldier, etc., 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 elder of his church and so forth. Very neutral, and he saw my father as a father figure, so he helped him write the will. My mom and dad were separated during the time that this was happening, and over time, this cousin of his softened him to that place where they eventually, my mom and for my dad to include my mom in the will, which he did. He he also helped to soften him to a place where um it- my relationship with him eventually got to a point where I could become his power of attorney, and um and also to a place where we were really getting along as father and son, as opposed to an estrangement that we had before. That kind of resulted from the eventual separation between my parents. So we're going along, but there's this third party that would enter the scene, that would have been on the scene for a very long time, and that's where a lot of contention would have come in. Family. My father was the first of 14 children, and about 10 out of the 14 were up in arms against me. And a lot of it had its genesis in my parents' separation. My parents got married in 1973. I was born in 1975. I'm the first of the three natural born children. There's this fourth child. She's older than me, but she came on the scene later on. She's in the will too, but them not no contention against her. I just me one. But the will protected us. When I tell you there was a lot of contention, um, there was one sibling who she I had to protect my father and to protect the property and to protect my sister who was living with my dad at the time. My sister has special needs. I had to bolt her out of the property so that she couldn't come on. Once I realized that her presence was presenting a threat to my dad and his property and his well-being and my sister's well-being. And she went and got police. And when she came with the police, I had to leave there, go spend 2.5 hours at the police station explaining the situation, to the point where when the police came back, they had to ask this man who could barely talk who gets to stay and who has to go. And I'm his firstborn child, right? And so he said, make sure go to XYZ place. Is their family home. After that passed, um, he would eventually pass on. And then the will reading came and the truth came out. But guess what we did before the will was complete? My father had two properties, and he didn't will it to anybody. In Jamaica, you can do a thing called deed of gift. So he gifted myself and my sister, essentially me, because my sister, being special needs, could not financially control the situation, and that saved us, transfer taxes and all of that situation. He willed it to us. Sorry, he deed gave it as a deed of gift to us, and so it's in both our names, and we're moving on with that. So I I own that. I partly own a piece of real estate. The other house that he would have passed away in, that was a part of the will, which we are in the process of selling, and that got split up 5 ways, including my mom. God would have played a massive role in all of this. Um, the share that goes to my mom got split in two, in a sense, where a part of it, so my mom, and a part of it is to the church that he was first elder of for over a decade. And so a will can do a lot of work if you know how to put it together. A will can do a lot of work. So think too, after I've said all of that, let us look at the grand expanse of time, and I'm not going to be long with this part. And how did God come up with the structures to protect women in particular who would have lost husbands to war, or a son and no one to protect them? God had certain structures in place to protect, in particular, women, because this was, but then it was a very patriarchal planet. Still is to a great degree. I don't think a prenup is the only structure, the only instrument that can exist to protect the covenant of marriage. I don't think so. I think because we are used to it, and it has been, I want another word for this, but it's the only one I can think of. It has been, prenups have been romanticized in movies and weaponized to the point where it's like it's the only thing we know about. See, I mentioned the deed of gift. How many people on this call knew about a deed of gift? You could just give something to someone, a car, a computer, a phone, a house. You can do these things. These instruments exist under the law. I believe that we right here, we can start this conversation about what else can exist besides a prenup. How can we use this conversation about prenup to allow us to start thinking about, maybe this conversation isn't really about prenup, It really is about forcing us to have the conversation about financial transparency, um, debt, responsibility, etc., etc., etc. My bottom line as I close is, what other instruments can exist under the law that protect the covenant of marriage and the future that two people are trying to build, given their past situations financially, and and whatever responsibilities they may carry into the marriage? Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing that, Brother York, and expanding on that. All righty. Um, go ahead, Dr. Grace.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think it would be well in order for me to applaud the bravery of the planners. I don't know who else and you planned this program, but I think it was just very brave and very insightful of you to plan a program like this, a taboo topic, especially within the realm of Seventh-day Adventism. And I would encourage, especially those of us who are on the call, to go back to our churches with information and say this is a topic that was well worth having an afternoon, a Sunday evening, or Wednesday, or whenever. So I just want to say kudos to those who planned this program. There is so much that was shared this evening, the various videos, the conversations. when Sister Nancy spoke, I said, I wasn't planning to say anything because, sometimes I don't need to jump into the conversation because everything was just very clear. And I really appreciated the contributions of Dr. Tony and other persons and so forth. But when Dr. Tony and Lady Nancy spoke, I said, you know what? If you have an ear and if you are close to God and have discernment, even before you get yourself tangled into situation, He presents them to you like on a platter. Because when Dr. Tony shared her experience, the gentleman saying right away, I am a stepmom and I proudly wear that title. I have two children by my husband before we were married, and I raised those two children, and we have a son biologically. And I can't imagine husband, probably then saying to me that, I would take my child's name off, off a title, off anything to put me on it. That would have just been a flag that is painted red 10 times over. So that jumped out at me and saying, God always presents something to us for us to stop, for us to pause, for us to say that even though we are in the world but not of the world, He will still protect us. Because I did hear you mention that even though within Christendom as Seventh Adventism and so forth, it is a taboo topic. It is something that we really, because it has it's positives and it's negatives. So it's something that we really have to discuss. And then when Lady Nancy gave her experience about the gentleman and just right up front, somebody that you would have known for how long, saying that he'd want you. People, I think the temerity, and I'm using that word York, this sound like Dr. Thompson, right? The temerity of some people. But then, the Lord always provide us with the answer even before we get ourselves entangled in a lot of these situations. And it goes back to what one of the gentlemen said. You showed so many videos that I don't remember which one of the men. But he said that marriages can survive, but a lot of marriages that did happen should not have happened. Really shouldn't have happened. A lot of persons are not comfortable because, like, for example, Sister Nancy or Sister Tony were someone else, they would have caught the bait. You feel we need to use these conversations as evidence that we can stand alone, that we can live fruitful, happy lives as single individuals, and we don't have to allow ourselves to be pulled in by every little wind, for want of a better terminology, or every little proposal from certain people, because people are so bold. But then, God has a way of protecting His children. And so, again, in closing, I just want to give commendations for the bravery, because some topics, just seeing it, I must be honest, when I saw that, oh, wow, yeah, we are making strides. We're making strides in dealing with these taboo topics in an open forum. And it is okay to do so. We are in the world, but not of the world, but we still have to make ourselves educated. We have to make ourselves knowledgeable of what is happening out there. And there's nothing wrong with it. So let us go back to our churches or communities and have conversations. Elder John Kim also mentioned about people should be able to talk to each other, because if you cannot talk before you get married, when are you going to talk? You have to be able to bring up all of these things, and let us not be blinded by anything. Everything should be on the table. Nothing should be off topic for you to be able to talk about, especially if you are having a relationship. Blessings.
Yes. Thank you so very much, Dr. Grace. And we want to thank the persons, I believe it's in the photo sharing group that the discussion started. And someone said to take it on Zoom. So we decided to address the topic here, and for us to share with each other about this whole topic about prenups. All right. Thank you all so very much for joining in on the discussion tonight. It was a rich one. And for us to share, and um Elder York, I believe, expanded on the whole topic of financial management. Um, I know that last quarter we spoke a lot about finances, but I think we probably need to have someone on that could speak about how this could be discussed in marriages, how the conversation can be started, and how we should look at it to help us all in navigating this process. All right, I would like for us to pray about what we would have gotten from this discussion tonight. I placed some prayer points in the chat that I would like for us to all look at. So I'd like us all to join in prayer. I'm going to start first, and you can pick any one of those 4 prayer points and speak to it. Tonight we want to pray about wisdom and unity in marriages, especially for those of us will be entering into marriages who wants to do that, for trust and honesty, for peace in financial conversation, and for those of us who are seeking God's choices and His guidance as it relates to marriage and financial affairs. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for the gift of marriage. Lord, we surrender our hearts here to you, and we're asking you to guide every heart here to seek your wisdom in decisions about relationships, finances, and covenant. Lord, give us clarity, unity, and peace to be able to engage our potentials in the discussion around financial affairs. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. The floor is now open for you to pray.
Heavenly Father, as we discuss this topic, Lord, I know that many of us would have experienced a lot of thoughts going through our minds. The first thing is that it is just sad that we even have to have this conversation here. But because of the realities of life, Lord, we know that it is necessary. God, I personally see much clearer how much we need your guidance and your direction, how much education we need, Lord.
Yes.
Father, you have promised us wisdom, dear God. And so, Lord, I just pray that you will help us to be able to have these conversations, Lord, not just with potential partners, but just with our family members, our friends, to help them to understand, because sometimes we just have a one-sided view about things.
Yes.
But then when we become educated, we can see a broader picture. And in this session, I know that many of us would have come to a realization that prenup is more than just planning for divorce. So, Lord, I just ask that you will help us, that even as we seek to have partners, people we can share our lives with, Lord, that we will also be able to have these kind of conversations with them and just know how to go about doing it, and to listen to Lord Jesus, so that we can be able to recognize the red flags if there are any, and also understand that if somebody pushes back when they first hear it, that we will exercise patience in making sure that it is because they don't have a clear understanding, and that once they have a clear understanding, they might have a different opinion. Lord, I know that many of us may present this to someone and end up without a relationship because the way that some people are so strict in what they think and how they think, Lord Jesus, God, it can really cause confusion. Even as I am speaking to you here now, Lord, I see so many things that can become involved and the great controversy that can develop.
Yes.
But Lord, we pray for clear vision. We pray for understanding. We pray for wisdom. We pray for ways to approach these topics that seem quite delicate with those who might not have had the conversation before, Lord. And we just ask for your guidance in everything, Lord. I also pray, dear God, that this may be something that the church would be willing to deal with, not just in a singles ministry, but right there with everyone, just to make sure that, there is a clear understanding and that there is education about this topic, Lord. We thank you so much for your patience with us, Lord. And we thank you for enlightenment. And we thank you for hearing and answering our prayers as we continue to seek wisdom.